The crisis over whether the government of national unity will remain in its current form continues as political parties across the spectrum scramble to ensure that the National Treasury considers their revenue proposals. For the ANC's lot, they've given their team of negotiators a few days to reach out to everyone to see if a reconfiguration of the GNU is possible. But it's clear that both within Luthuli House and the DA, strong opposing views exist on whether or not to stay and under what conditions. So we continue to watch as the two parties engage in a game of chicken that could crumble the KZN government of provincial unity and cause negative market reaction. Plus, there's more litigation against last week's adoption of the 2025-26 fiscal framework. I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo, and you're watching the latest edition of Your Week in Politics.
The week kicked off with Deputy President Paul Mashatile chastising the DA for their failure to vote for the budget. The DP said the party's government employees should be ashamed to remain in their posts. He was speaking at the Ahmed Kathrada Legacy inaugural fundraising breakfast on Monday morning.
The DA walked away, we didn't chase them. They must vote for the budget. There's no government that will exist without the budget, so the ball is in their court. You say they can't have their cake and eat it.
Mashatile set the tone for the day as the ANC's National Working Committee was also preparing to meet to resolve the impasse. He is one of the top officials who believes the DA should be punished for their failure to vote in favor of the fiscal framework.
They are still working as ministers. I will be ashamed to do that. You run to work as a minister, you have not voted for a budget, but you think it's okay. No, you're going to work.
But after a marathon meeting on Monday night, Luthuli House emerged with cooler heads to say work to resolve tensions continues. But ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula also took the opportunity to lash out at the DA, saying their participation in the GNU has been marred by double-dealing, negotiating and acting in bad faith, and open disdain for transformation.
The Working Committee resolved that we will reset the button to engage with all political parties in the GNU, as well as those who are not in the GNU, to address the impasse with regard to the budget. We intend to do that within a period of 5 days to conclude the period of negotiations on the budget.
Both the ANC and DA remained non-committal this week about their future in the government of national unity. Interview after interview, all those involved called for cool heads, maturity, and putting the interests of South Africans first. But clearly, all the parties that voted in support of the budget in its current form are on a drive to explain to citizens and their constituencies that they have not followed the lead of the ANC on this matter.
The IFP held a briefing on Monday following its NEC meeting where it outlined why it supported the budget in its current form.
The IFP is anti-VAT increases. This remains our position. And while this VAT increase is not desirable, we support this budget under prevailing circumstances and with conditions. The IFP's identity in the GNU remains fully intact. We are not in the GNU to carry the backs of the ANC or the DA backs. We were there to conform to the views of one party or another. We have our own policy agenda and our own way of doing things.
Build One South Africa came out on Tuesday to outline their next steps in the national budget process. Musi Maimane says his party has identified sports betting and online gambling as a possible revenue source if a sin tax were to be placed on these industries alone. On whether or not Bosa will join the GNU, this is what Maimane had to say.
I think that there's a genuine commitment on all parties to say we've got to find a solution and we've got to work together. And there's an attraction towards saying, fine, we're hearing each other. Now let's begin to find what the legal framework is. Remember, the Money Bills Act gives us capacity to say, whatever amendment you make, you can give the Minister of Finance notice, and then that Minister of Finance has to inform the related minister of the impacts that there are. And so within 48 hours, we get a response, and then we can begin to make adjustments. It's the same. Even Treasury have written to us about a mistake that they found in the budget. Now they write to us so that we can begin to help Parliament make that decision. The bill now sits in Parliament. It doesn't sit in court. It doesn't sit anywhere else. And therefore, when people want to run to a court or go elsewhere, it's not helpful in the sense that we've got to work the parliamentary processes to make sure that the Division of Revenue Bill, the Appropriations Bill, plus the taxation amendment laws are well worked to achieve what we all want to achieve.
But the DA and Freedom Front Plus, which both voted against the budget, contend that the ANC is trying to bulldoze its way through policies and decisions that are supposed to be taken as a collective within the GNU. John Steenhuisen says they cannot continue with the coalition constantly on their knees like beggars.
We've been committed to working within the GNU to find a way forward on that. And I think that now that Mr. Mbalula has announced that they are wanting to have discussions, we're happy to have those discussions as we have from the beginning. We joined the Government of National Unity to help grow the economy and create jobs. But it has to be a genuine power-sharing relationship. It can't be that one party behaves as if they have the majority and everybody else must just bend the knee. It has to be a genuine partnership of genuine power-sharing.
The FF Plus believe any changes to the current coalition would cause instability in the markets and in the country.
This fiscal framework and the budget in totality was not a budget of the GNU. And that's the first problem. And the problem is that it's wider and more intrusive than only the budget. It's about a program of governance that has not been formulated. So there's no economic policy of the GNU. There's no foreign policy of the GNU. And that's a problem. But it's a problem that can be addressed, we believe. And we believe that this is growing pains. But with regards to the fiscal framework, it was very technical. How can you vote for something that says that it approves the fiscal framework conditionally? It's illegal, it has no legal basis, and that made it very difficult for us to support something that is actually not tangible, and you can't actually vote for that report.
The budget impasse and the resulting rift between the two biggest parties in the GNU has placed the provincial arrangement in KwaZulu-Natal in jeopardy. Despite the MK party attaining 45% of the vote, the legislature is made up of a coalition between the DA, IFP, NFP and ANC. And at the time of the negotiations, parties wanted what was being discussed at a national level to cascade to the provinces.
This arrangement saw the IFP's KZN leader Thami Ntuli becoming premier, the DS Francois Rogers taking up the critical role of finance MEC, and the former governing party getting 3 posts in education, health and transport in the new dispensation. So far, the government of provincial unity has been stable, but with the impasse over the fiscal framework and talks of a possible breakup, the MK party could be in good stead to use its 45%.
MK, of course, in that legislature has 37 seats out of the 80. They need just about 4, but they don't get that from the EFF and the National Freedom Party only. They would need some votes either from the IFP or from the ANC itself or the DA. I think that, to be quite honest, if you look at the makeup of the parties and just how distant they are in terms of not just ideology, but in terms of their priorities and personalities, I don't think it is going to be that easy for the MK party to see itself being in government in KwaZulu-Natal.
But the IFP's Velenkosi Nihlabisa has cautioned against destabilizing the provinces over the budget impasse.
From where I stand, provinces must be given a space. We should not impose how we view things at a national level, because what might have been a cause of different opinion at a national level might not be the same in KwaZulu-Natal.
But the DA's KZN chairperson, Dean McPherson, says it is inevitable that whatever happens at a national level will affect KZN. He also took aim at the ANC and IFP, calling them to act responsibly and not hurl insults at his party during these turbulent times.
Parties in the GNU just thinking that the DA is lazy enough to stay in the provincial government because we don't have any other options. That is not the case. And we'll, of course, be guided by our provincial structures, and we will take our cue from there. But if anyone is under the mislabeled idea that what they say and do in the national government will not have consequences in KZN, I think that they may want to reassess that situation.
The MK party says its president, Jacob Zuma, has instructed them to begin engaging with other political parties except the ANC about taking over the government in KZN. The biggest party in the province says the GNU was never going to work because of ideological contradictions between the two largest partners in the coalition.
This GPU cannot go to the local government elections in its form because no party amongst them is going to win the local government elections. In other words, the MK party is well positioned to take over the provincial local government structures. That's why, because we're the only ones that were supported by a lot of people. And we know that this is going to fall apart, whether we talk to people or not, whether we embark on any mass action. But the important thing is that this is not going to hold. The GPU cannot hold nationally, it cannot hold here in the province.
As a part of the ANC's commitment to speak to all parties, it met with Action SA on Wednesday about how to move past the budget deadlock, but emphasized that this was the only topic on the agenda. The latter says it won't entertain any discussions about joining the GNU until the 0.5 percentage point tax hike is scrapped.
We will not be available for those kind of discussions. We are dealing with the budget, we are dealing with the VAT increase, and that is the absolute focus of our work right now. If those discussions are to follow, we will be amenable now as we were in June last year. But until there is the removal of these increases from our point of view, there's absolutely nothing to talk about, because Action SA is not part of this GNU. And I think that point you made earlier in your introduction is so important. We find ourselves in a situation where a GNU government made up of 70% of the seats in Parliament cannot pass a budget. This is the crisis that is now requiring opposition parties like ours to come in and resolve this impasse. And it really is a shame that it's come to this.
The EFF has joined the DA's litigation before the Western Cape High Court to declare the fiscal framework invalid and unlawful. The Red Berets are applying as an intervening party. They believe the Standing Committee of Finance failed to follow the law in relation to the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act.
While the Standing Committee on Finance did consider a report on the fiscal framework, the committee failed to adopt this report in a manner consistent with the law and the rules of Parliament. The committee did not make the recommendations required by Section 8, Subsection 5 of the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act, and no deliberations or formal vote on the report took place before it was tabled in the National Assembly, specifically on this matter. Instead, the framework of the statement was inserted post-adoption of the report. What was passed in the National Assembly was, therefore, not a lawful report, but a document pushed through in violation of the Constitution and the Money Bills Act.
Coming up after the break, we reflect on President Cyril Ramaphosa's remarks at the World Trade Organization on Thursday. Ramaphosa's speech comes at a time when his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump, paused those reciprocal tariffs for 90 days, with the exception of those imposed on China. And much closer to home, with the local government elections just around the corner, we assess the state of Tshwane after its mayor delivered her first State of the City address. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're still watching Your Week in Politics here on Newzroom Afrika, channel 405. On Thursday, Tshwane Mayor Dr. Nasipi Moya tabled her State of the City address. In it, she noted a significant improvement in the metro's finances. More on that in a bit. But further afield, there was a surprise change of heart from US President Donald Trump, who on Wednesday announced a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs. China, though, was hit with an immediate tariff of more than 100%. And that country hit back with an 84% tariff, followed by another one of more than 100%. Trump says the US has received calls from over 70 countries who are trying to negotiate new hikes.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
Trump insists that China wants to make a deal, but is too proud to admit it.
Additional tariffs on Chinese goods are in place effective midnight tonight at 104%. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people.
Here at home, the prospects of any kind of tariff hike would have an impact on our agricultural industry, one being citrus exports.
Difficult day for the industry, for the Western Cape and Northern Cape areas. Yeah, a lot of confusion and not really knowing what's going to happen for what, but we need to find a solution. We're talking about a $4 or $5 tariff on a box of fruit, and ideally, I mean, our profit margins, it's not even a quarter of that at the moment. So for us to base these tariffs, we would have to move away from the American market, but where to is the question. You just don't pack up and leave a market that you've developed the last 20 years. We do supermarket business through the Western Hemisphere, so all our deals are done. About 80% of our fruit is being sold already at a price confirmed on a weekly basis. But then we threw this spanner in the works, so we have to renegotiate all our deals, and a lot of our deals will not be sustainable going into the US because the other side of the coin is Peru and Chile only has a 10% tariff on their product, and that's our competition. So they will take market share, and there's not a lot we can do about it.
One professor at the School of Oriental and African Studies within the University of London admits that part of the reason for Trump's about turn was influenced by the business community within the US and the impact of tariffs on their enterprises. He's also pointed out that these hikes are incredibly indiscriminate because even US allies like Taiwan and Israel have also been subjected to increases.
Yes, I think it was the business and the corporate community that was very, very alarmed at the prospective effects of Trump's tariffs on so many nations. And they had a united voice that this would be bad for the American economic outlook, bad for American business, and that Trump basically had miscalculated the effect that his tariffs would have in terms of the economy of the United States, which is, to a much larger extent than he would wish, dependent on the outside world. So it was not just international response. It wasn't just as were the threat of retaliation, although very little retaliation has actually been put into place apart from China's.
On Thursday, President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the World Trade Organization. Currently, more than 80% of global trade takes place under the WTO rules-based system. Our first citizen flagged issues of inclusivity and structural transformation that integrates developing countries into global trade, including a veiled swipe at the US.
We're seeing unilateral and protectionist measures being implemented by some advanced economies that are outside the agreed upon multilateral framework. It is incumbent on all of us to ensure that the multilateral trading system is strengthened and not weakened, or we risk the encroachment of a global trade regime that is based on power dynamics.
Tshwane Mayor Dr. Nasiphi Moya presented her first State of the City address since taking office 6 months ago. It's the first time in years that the Metro has seen a coalition government this stable for this long, and even able to report that their cash reserves for 2025-26 are projected to reach almost 2.9 billion rands. Newzroom Africa's Junior Kumalo was in the capital city for us on Thursday.
Tshwane Mayor Nasiphi Moya's maiden State of the Capital City address on Thursday was accompanied by much fanfare. Moya, who assumed office through a multi-party coalition with the ANC and EFF last year, said there was much to celebrate for the Metro's citizens.
The issue of financial stability remains #1 priority, because we understand if we do not turn around the finances of the city, we won't be able to pay for the services that needs to be delivered to the people. So the fact that we've been able to reduce the debtors book, we've been able to reduce the creditors book, and we've been able now to have a credible, fully funded budget. So those are some of the successes that we've had.
According to Moya, the city's Rand water account is up to date, while she also expects Tshwane's cash reserves to reach 2.8 billion. Despite the fiscal turnaround, Moya acknowledged that more still needed to be done to truly improve the lives of the Metro's residents. She cited the state of the CBD, saying it was not befitting an administrative capital. This maiden State of the Capital City address by the mayor almost did not get underway, with the Democratic Alliance staging a silent protest. They were unhappy about some of the choices that have been made by this administration. Councillors. Former mayor and DA caucus leader in council, Celia Brink, says the fiscal turnaround that led to the mayor tabling a fully funded draft budget comes at a cost for residents.
We want to express the frustration of residents with rolling power outages, with water outages, with the unavailability of water tankers, with the deterioration of services in the city, and then the mayor's proposal of a new tax and no relief or very little relief to higher property rates.
In a bid to continue the financial revitalization of the city, Moya committed to making Tshwane attractive to investors while also boosting the township economy. For Newzroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Junior Kumalo at the Tshwane House in Pretoria.
It's been 32 years since the assassination of Chris Hani in his driveway on a fateful day on the 10th of April 1993. On Thursday, Deputy President Paul Mashatile led the official commemoration in Tsofimvaba in the Eastern Cape.
We are not exactly where Comrade Chris Hani would have liked us to be as a nation. In many parts of our country, there's still limited and no development at all, translating into high levels of poverty.
Hani's daughter has used the platform to decry the injustice of her family, still not knowing who is truly behind her father's murder. The communist leader's assassin, Janusz Walusz, was deported back to Poland last year when his parole ended. Up to now, he has never revealed the mastermind behind the killing of the anti-apartheid activist.
It is unfortunate that under the same party he died for is the reason that his murderer went home. And as much as that won't bring Daddy back, it will be such a soothing balm to us at least to know what happened and who was involved.
That's a wrap of your week in politics. Stay tuned to Newzroom Africa this weekend for more political news. This includes the MK Party hosting a series of events to celebrate the birthday of former President Jacob Zuma, who on Saturday turns 83. And at the start of the week, President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to spend 2 days in the Eastern Cape to conduct an oversight visit and a joint meeting with the provincial government and executive mayors of the province. I'll personally be there to bring you rolling coverage with my colleagues on the ground. But for now, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching.